to the heartbeat of America. Listen to the heartbeat of America. Yeah, it's the season in the air, the color of open space. Mountain Lake, magic place, feel the heartbeat of America.
When your heart beats for the great outdoors, see your Chevy dealer, where you'll find over 90 different ways to enjoy it all.
Oh, the heartbeat of America. Chevrolet. That's today's Chevy truck.
Welcome to the Sportsman's Workshop, brought to you by the Heartbeat of America, today's Chevy truck.
Okay, kids, we can have your attention for a minute. We're going to spend a few minutes here talking about fishing, about some instructional methods. Then we're going to give you some individual casting instruction. And then we're going to move over to the pond, and we're actually going to go fishing, and we hope we're all going to catch a bunch of fish. We've got some people helping us, and I want to introduce them to you. First, we have a Mr. Doug Harbor. Doug has been fishing, hunting all of his life, avid fisherman, and he's going to help some of you kids, and we single off into little groups now. Doug, I'd like for you to stand up and let the kids see you.
You bet.
Okay, there you go. Next we have a Mr. Gary Klein. Gary is from California, been hunting and fishing, I guess, since he was 4 or 5 years old, all of his life. Grew up with a rod and reel in his hand. He is a national professional bass fishing champion. Gary is sponsored on the pro staff of Zebco. And Zebco, as you see, has put all these rods and reels here for us to use today. Gary, come on down here. We got a pretty good chore ahead of us today with these kids.
Sure do.
And I think, you know, with you and I and Doug, I think we're going to be able to really help these kids. I think there's a few things that the kids need to know before we put the rods in their hand and send them out to the pond to go fishing. And one of the things, I think one of the important things is to watch littering. Now, when we give you kids these rods, we don't ever want you to litter wherever you go fishing, whether it's a public lake, a pay lake, or a big private pond on a friend's farm, something like that. Don't ever take anything out and leave trash laying around the lake. And when we get through here, and you get these rods and reels, and you take them out of the packaging, be sure and take all the paper and the trash and put it in the back of the pickup truck. Now, Gary, what do you think is another thing that's really important as far as when these kids go out fishing?
Well, Roger, one thing that we might want to add is safety. Safety is something that we should always be thinking about. One thing today, we're going to be fishing with a lot of live bait. We're also going to be using some artificial lures. So kids, we have to be real careful when we're casting. Be aware of who's behind you and how you're flinging your outfits out there, because those hooks are sharp, and if they get caught in you, they hurt.
They're awful, awful painful. And let's not forget, probably the most important thing, I don't care how good a swimmer you are, you can't swim if you're knocked out. And when you're fishing around a pond, and remember, some of the best fishing you can find is real close to your house, a little farm pond. Everyone that lives in the big city can't fish a little farm pond because it's on private property. So if you've got a friend that's got a farm pond, you can probably catch all the fish you want right there. But try to remember this. Even if you're a good swimmer, when you go fishing, always go fishing with a buddy, a friend, a parent. Fish with someone else and wear a life jacket, especially if you're around a river where there's current, or if you're someplace where you're in a boat or you're on a bank that's rather steep. Anything like that, because if you fall in the water, you just see it every day in the paper. Extremely dangerous to be around the water without a life jacket on.
Something else, Roger, that I might add is that every time you go fishing or you plan an outing, be sure that somebody knows where you're going and what time you're due back in.
That's important. Let someone know where you're going and when you're going to come back. Now, as we finish these things, we're going to move to another area a little ways, and we're going to break you up into groups for some individualized casting instruction. As Gary mentioned, it's very important that you learn how to cast correctly. And that's what Gary and myself and Doug are going to do, is show you the proper way. If you learn right, then you've got it right the first time. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. Perfect practice makes perfect. Okay. Now I want you kids to come down here, and each of you get a rod and reel and take it out of the packaging, put it in the truck. Let's go for it.
Let's go catch it.
Lindsay, this is the rod that you're going to be using today. It's a push button or a closed face spinning outfit. And the first thing we have to do is put the reel on the rod, which you see we've already done, and then put the fishing rod together. Slide it together, make sure that the guides of the rod are lined up. Once you've got that done, then you push this button back here to release the line. You take the end of the line, let me see if I can get this into this line here. We'll thread it out through the guides. You have to come all the way out. Make sure not to get around behind the rod or to get it all wrapped up as you thread the line through the guides. Okay, we'll get out here to the end. Okay. Now that we've got the line threaded through the guides, twist the reel handle so the line doesn't go any farther. See, now the line is tight. Okay, next thing to do before we go fishing is to set the drag on the reel. Now this is important because if a fish is big and he goes to make a run away from you, if you don't have your drag set right, he'll break the line. And once the fish breaks the line, you don't have any chance of catching him. So you set the drag to where your line will strip off of the reel just before it breaks. Now if you set this little twist button right here, you'll see it says drag plus and minus. Okay, that was a little bit loose, so let's put a little more drag on it. Okay, make it a little tighter. That's a little bit. Try it again. Let's see here. A little bit more. See, that's tight. That's plenty tight enough to set the hook, which is what you need, but loose enough that it will strip before the fish breaks your line. Okay? You understand it so far?
Yes.
Now we need to get some fishing lures, and we'll show you how to tie a lure on, and then we're going to show you how to cast. I'm going to show you a little trick before we do that, though. Okay? Lots of times when I've been fishing, I find my line kind of like this. After I get it all rigged up, I'll notice that I've got a loop around the rod. You see how I've got a loop, or the line is looped around the rod there? Now if you've got a fishing lure tied on, you see that? Most people think you have to take the fishing lure off and pull the line all the way back through the guides and unwrap it. You don't have to do that. If you just pull the line up like this, over the back of the rod, like that. Now let me show you. Pull it back tight. See there, the loop is gone.
Oh, okay.
And that'll work for you if you got a loop around here. If it's looped around the rod from here to here, you can just take the line and pull it over the end of the rod and pull it back through, just like you do on this end of the rod. And you just have to think about it. Which way is it wrapped around? That's the way I want to unwrap it, but I have to take it around the end of the rod to do it. Okay? Any of you have any questions on what we've done so far? You understand it so far? The next thing we need to show you is how to make a cast. And this is where most people make a lot of mistakes when they first start fishing, is they want to go sidearm. And it's really dangerous. You've got to learn how to cast the correct way at first. The first thing you need to do is hold the rod correctly. Make sure each of you have one finger behind that trigger. That keeps the rod from being jerked out of your hand if a fish hits, or if your hand is slick and you make a cast. So always keep one finger behind that trigger. Okay? Step number 2, put your thumb lightly on the button. Don't push it hard, just lightly for now. So you got the right position. Then hold your rod right out in front of you, all of you. Okay? Now you'll notice that if you lift your rod up, you can't lift it very far. And that's because your wrist doesn't break very far this way. But put them back down now. If you turn your hand over to where your palm is facing the ground, all of you with your palm facing the ground, now lift your rod back. See how far you can come back over? Okay, now that we've got that much, I'm going to make just back and forth easy a few times. Now that you've got that, bring your elbow in to your side. Hold it kind of in close here. It's just a wrist action. And don't be afraid to go back a long ways with that back cast, okay, back and forward. And you know, we're standing about shoulder to shoulder here, and I don't hear any rods clicking together, so I guess we must be making the false cast right. Okay, we got that much done. The next thing we need to do is show you how to set that drag. Remember, you don't want that fish to break the line. We might have been through this, but I'm going to make sure all of you have your drag set right. Okay, pull that line out. Wind it up a little bit. If it feels real loose, tighten your drag. There's a little button right here on top or on the side, depending on your reel. Makes it tighter or looser. You don't want to be able to jerk it like that and break the line, because that means a fish could break the line. But you don't want it real loose, because you need enough, a tight enough drag to make sure that the hook gets set when you jerk and set the hook. You got that much done? Okay, now that we've got this much done, the actual cast, and we're going to let Gary show you how to tie the lures on and let you determine what you're going to fish with, but the actual cast is made by pretending that we have a lure tied on, and we're doing this now so no one gets hooks down in the grass and so forth. When you have your arm out in front of you here with it kind of up against your side, push the button in and hold it, okay? Have your wrist turned over a little bit like that. All of you, the wrist turned down. Now, when you make the cast, make sure that even if you're casting into an open pond, make sure you have something that you're throwing at. Don't just throw at the water. Look at a spot and try to hit that. See how close you can come to that spot you look at. You come back straight and forward and release it as soon as you start forward. That's it. Now, two things will happen. The first thing will happen, you'll come back and you'll go forward and your lure will hit the ground behind you. That means you let your thumb off of the button too soon. The other thing that happens, you'll be out here like this, you'll come back and you'll go forward and the lure will hit the ground right here in front of you. It means you held your thumb on the button too long. It takes a little bit of timing, a little bit of practice, but pretty soon you'll find that you'll come back and forward and release at the right time and your lure will just shoot out there. Then you've done it right. One other thing we need to talk about is the fact that you all are the oldest of the group of kids that are here today, and most of you have a hand and a wrist that's physically big enough and strong enough to handle with one hand. However, if you feel comfortable using two hands to make a cast, you will see Roland Martin and Gary Klein and some of the other guys on occasion using two hands to cast. The two-handed casting method is does not mean that you're not a good fisherman. I learned when I was a youngster to fish by fishing with two hands because my hands were so little that I had to, and I learned by this, like this. I put my left hand in front. Now I'm left-handed. If you're right-handed, you would reverse this. I put my left hand in front, my right hand in back, and I came over my left shoulder and cast like that. Now if you're right-handed, it would be just the opposite. It would be your left hand back, your right hand in front, and you would come over your right shoulder and throw. If you feel more comfortable doing that, then you can go ahead and learn that way. Eventually, you'll get to where you use one hand. Let's get Gary Klein in here with his group of people, and we'll let him show you how to tie your knot, and a knot is probably the most important thing that we can teach you today. If you don't come away from here with anything, come away from here with a knot that you can tie consistently. The knot is the weakest part of your fishing tackle. It needs to be done the best.
Okay, thank you very much, Roger. Well, kids, what we're going to cover here is we're going to cover how to tie a hook on the end of our lines, okay? And that way those big fish aren't going to break our lines or pull our hooks off, hopefully. And the knot that I use is just a real simple, basic knot. We call it a Palomar knot, okay? And some of y'all have casting plugs and stuff here in your hands, and maybe just try to follow me as I tie this. All we're simply going to do is take the end of our fishing line and go back through the eye of the hook or the artificial lure that we're going to be using. We actually want to go back through the eye twice, okay? So bring it back through once, bring it back through twice, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're just going to do like a basic overhand knot. So I can do this here real quick. And we're going to loop it back through, and we're going to have our hook hanging like this with our loop up here, and we're going to reach back through, grab a hold of the hook, and pull everything down real nice, smooth and easy. And we're going to form what they call the Palomar knot, which is a very strong knot. Okay, and it's a real easy knot to do. You have to spend a little bit of time practicing with it. It took me quite a long time too. But whenever you come home from school, after you do your homework and stuff, just sit down and practice that knot a little bit before you go out and practice your casting. Okay? Now what I'm going to rig up here is probably the rig that I'm going to end up fishing with, and I'm just going to fish with a bobber, a split shot, and I'm probably going to find me one of those nice lively red worms. And the bass and the crappie and the bluegill that's out here in the pond just usually can't resist that. All we're going to do is I'm going to take a little split shot and I'm just going to put it up about 12 to 14 inches from the hook. Squeeze it shut, okay? And then just up a little bit above that, I'm just going to put myself a little tiny bobber. Now this bobber here is just going to float my live red worm above the grass out there and above the bottom. Keep it up off the bottom. And while I'm sitting here talking to everybody and watching everybody else catch fish, I'm going to keep my eye on my bobber too. And when it goes under, that means there's something tugging on the other end, and hopefully it's going to be a big old fish. And I'm going to be able to reel him in with my Mickey Mouse rod here. Now, don't laugh, okay? I'm going to catch me a nice fish on my Mickey Mouse rod. Everybody ready to go fishing?
Yeah.
These kids' faces, it's really a sight to behold. The expressions, it's genuine, you can tell. They're really excited, they're really having a good time. I just can't impress upon myself how important it is to take a youngster and see him catch that first fish. It's an expression that'll stay with you the rest of your life. I can almost close my eyes and remember back when I started fishing. It seemed like it was so important, every fish, like it was the only fish I was ever going to catch. And I was interested, I guess, from the time I put my first hook in the water until today. I still maintain that enthusiasm, and I can see some of these kids have that same type of enthusiasm that I had when I first started fishing. That's something that will grow with them the rest of their life. And today we are really starting some new lifetime hobbies for some of these youngsters. And most of these kids today, as you look out here, you would expect it to be all boys, but it's just pretty much the opposite. I think probably of the 15 or 20 kids here we've got today, I imagine 15 or so of them are girls. It's strictly not a boys' sport, that's for sure. And they don't mind putting a worm on their hook. That surprised me this morning when we first started out. They just dug right into those boxes and pulled the worms out and started putting them on the hooks. As a matter of fact, I think the only one of the whole group that was a little bit reluctant to put a worm on the hook was one of the boys. So the girls are into this as much as the boys are, that's for sure.
Good.
Hold it up. Reel it up a little bit.
Look at that. You want me to show you how to take it off the hook? Okay, here you go. You trust me? Huh? Let me see this hand. Give me this hand. Okay. Now take it. I'm gonna hold him so he can't get you. Trust me, it'll be okay. Put your thumb right there. Now see, he can't move when you do that. Okay, now put your thumb right there on his lip and put your other finger down below. Put your thumb in his mouth. Okay, now pinch. Now now push down hard with your thumb. He can't bite you. Okay, no, not on the hook. Get your thumb off to the side. Okay, get your thumb off to, no, get it in his mouth a little farther. Now push, now hold on to him. Hold on to him now, I'm gonna let go. There you go, now hold him up so he can take a picture. There you go. Okay, now we're gonna take the hook off. Okay. Now I want you to do this. I want you to give me your pole. Give me your pole. Okay, now put your thumb in his mouth again like I showed you. Okay, pinch down hard. Hold on to him. Now take the hook with your other hand and pull the hook out backwards. Can you do it? Just shake that hook backwards. Hold on tight. Oh, tight, isn't it? Here, I'll help you a little bit. There you go. Huh? How's that? Now, what do you want to do? You want to keep him? You want to throw him back?
Keep him.
Most of the kids today are fishing with live worms, but I see a few of the youngsters are starting to pick up some of the artificial lures we've got and tie them on. And I think maybe it'd be interesting to go to Gary now and let him talk to us a little bit about a selection of artificial lures.
Remember that not only can you catch a lot of fish out of farm ponds and little lakes and stuff on live bait, like night crawlers and redworms, but artificial is also an awful exciting way to fish. And really, the artificial baits that we make today just copy Mother Nature's creatures, like this little jitterbug. It's supposed to look like a little frog gurgling across the surface. Old plastic worm, you know, it doesn't look like one of the real ones, but it wiggles in the water pretty good. And these lures that we use primarily for largemouth bass, and they really add an awful lot of excitement to your fishing, and you can catch some awful big fish on those. We have some chugger type baits too, and these chugger type baits, you can catch some large fish, not only bass, but actually a whole variety of sizes and different species and stuff. But anyhow, artificial lures, you need to learn how to fish them because you can catch fish all year long, cold water, warm water, and in clear water and in dirty water. And don't be afraid to buy something that looks kind of ugly looking or different, something that you've never seen before. Because bass like stuff that moves the water and gurgles and makes bubbles and wiggles kind of weird. But like this buzzbait right here, I've caught a lot of big bass on ponds fishing with this type of a buzzbait. And you want to fish it on pretty heavy line. Like these outfits that we're catching bluegill on here, we're using 8-pound test line. When I fish a buzzbait, I like to use 15 or 20-pound test line on a level wind reel, or even on some of the spin casting reels. But a buzzbait's awful fun because you can watch the fish strike the lure, and you catch a lot of big fish on that. And the same thing with a spinnerbait. With these bright orange blades and the white skirt, it's real visible right underneath the surface. So when you cast around the stumps and the logs and the bushes and you're bringing it right by the cover, you can actually see the fish come out and grab the lure. And that's what makes my fishing an awful lot of fun for me, is I get to see the fish, and that really gets you excited and keeps you going. Another lure that we use an awful lot, especially on lakes, is like a little plastic worm or a grub. And we usually throw this on 6- and 8-pound test line. We can fish it in real shallow water. We can fish it in real deep water too. We catch a lot of smallmouth bass on it, spotted bass, and largemouth bass. So a little grub like this works pretty good sometimes also. And probably the last but not least is a crankbait. A crankbait is something that almost everybody has, and it's easy to fish with. Almost everybody has a crankbait in their tackle box. All you have to do is tie it on, cast it out, and just reel it in. But remember that the fish is usually swimming behind the lure, or he's pretty close to it. So what you want to try to do with your crankbait is always deflect it off of some type of an object. So don't be afraid to bang it into a piling, knock it off the rocks. Reel it right into the cover, because the bass is usually sitting there ready to ambush his prey. And when this little crankbait comes wiggling by like this and it hits a branch or something and it gets deflected, that makes it look like it's wounded, and that's usually when the fish will grab it. So artificial lures is an awful exciting way to fish.
Prior to owning the Chevrolet, I had a Ford. Well, I switched to the Chevy because I like the looks better than the Ford. I found out that they had completely redid the truck. You need a 4-wheel drive truck. You don't want to have to get out and lock your wheels in. If you want to go into 4-wheel drive, you can just shift into it. This Chevrolet truck is the best vehicle I have ever owned.
Heartbeat of America, that's the Chevy truck.
If you don't believe it, just go out and try it yourself.
We started out fishing this morning at the upper end of the pond in the shallow water, and it was a little bit muddy up there. And as you can see, we've moved down to the dock area now. And this is something that you'll notice when you take kids fishing to a pond. If there is a dock on it, that may be about the only cover in that pond. That means that the fish in that area, in that little pond itself, will migrate to that dock, because that might be the biggest source of cover, and that'll be the best place to fish. We mentioned earlier today about the importance and the necessity of children wearing life jackets whenever they're around the water. We don't have the jackets on the children today, but we have a lot of adult supervision here, and the water around the dock is only a couple of feet deep. Certainly, if we were in a situation where there was any danger at all, we would have had life jackets on them.
I got one, I got one! Hey, I got one too!
Bring it in here, Seth.
When you take youngsters fishing, they certainly don't have the attention span that an adult has. Don't try to rush them. Don't try to push them. When you take them fishing, just let them do it at their own pace. You can probably maintain their interest span by taking them someplace where you know there's a good population of fish. As long as there's something pulling on the other end of their line, those kids will stay interested for a long period of time.
I caught one! It's my fourth one!
Oh, look at here. We got a good one. Look at this. Oh, look at that fish. Isn't that a good one?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice bass. Let's get him over here. I'm gonna reach down here and see if I can get a hold of him. Oh, look at him. Look at him. There we go. Oh boy, ain't that pretty?
Yeah.
Huh? Oh, that's a nice bass. He'll weigh about 2.5 pounds. Good eating fish.
Yeah.
Get that lure out of his mouth. Look at that little lure. You know, I guess maybe I've fished all over the United States, and I probably fished with almost every lure that's ever been made. And as far as I'm concerned, they just don't make them any better than that Mr. Twister. That'll catch all kinds of fish all over the country, all the time. I'll tell you what, that's a nice fish. We're gonna keep that one. That'll make good supper, don't you think? Okay, you wanna take him and we'll take him over there? Can you carry him over there and put him in that live well for us?
Yeah.
There you go, get a hold of him right there. Take him over that live well and put him away.
Oh, oh, there's one right there. You got him. All right, go ahead, reel. Is he still on there? You know, folks, Zebco's been around since 1949, and you know, I haven't been around quite that long, but I got my start in bass, or actually in bass fishing at a real young age, but I started out catching bluegills, little panfish like this, and my first rod and reel combo that my parents ever bought for me was a little Zebco 33, and I know that I caught an awful lot of fish on it. But folks, what I'm saying is take your kids out fishing. Get them out in the afternoons, and if you can, take them to a little private pond or a public pond or a creek or something. Just get them in the outdoors, take them fishing, and get them hooked on a very neat sport, fishing. And thanks to Zebco, I think there's going to be many more young fishermen coming up here in the future.
You know, Doug, you've been out here with us all day, just slaving away. And I noticed that you haven't been up in the foreground very much, but you've always been with the kid helping him. What can you say about today?
Well, I tell you, the whole name of the game is to get every one of these little ones to catch a fish. And this was my ultimate goal. Brandy's, what are you, 3 years old? Yep, and by golly, she caught 2 or 3 fish today.
Is that right? Have you had a good time, Brandy? You want to come back out here and do it again? Okay.
Yeah, we're really proud of you, huh?
That's good.
Tomorrow.
You want to come back tomorrow?
Yeah,
Well, we'll see if we can do
we got a
that.
fisherman hook.
Have you all had a good time today?
Yes!
Have you learned something?
Yes!
Good. How about you, Gary? Have you had a
Oh,
good
I've
time?
learned an awful lot.
This is what it's all about. For my money, it just don't get any better than this. Remember this, when you get a chance, take a kid and take them fishing. You won't regret it, and they'll love it.
Hi, my name is Jay Warburton, and I would like to invite you to enjoy other titles in the Sportsman's Workshop Video Library series. Babe Winkleman covers it all in how to catch walleyes. Crankbaits, spinners, jigs, soft plastic lures, and live bait techniques. This video will assure you more consistent success in your fishing for walleye. The country's foremost big game guide, Dick Ray, takes professional outdoorsman Roger Moore on the hunt of a lifetime. These tips presented in How to Hunt the Majestic Elk will let you join the 20% of the hunters who take 80% of the trophies. In Decoys and Duck Calls, best-selling author Bob Brister will show you the secrets of using decoys and duck calls, adapting to weather and temperature conditions, proper gun selection, shell and shot size selection, and dozens of other secrets for duck hunting success. In How to Hunt Black Bears, you will join Roger Moore and Dick Ray as they seek out their trophy in the golden-covered slopes of the New Mexico Rockies during early fall. Using horses and hounds, you will learn Dick Ray's secrets for success as they bag a big boar. In Kids Plus Fishing Equals Fun, your family will learn all the basics as pros Roger Moore and Gary Klein take over 25 youngsters through the basics of casting, tying knots, rigging and baiting the hook and line, selecting and use of lures, and much, much more. Under the narrative expertise of Kurt Gowdy, you will enjoy the finest wildlife photography ever put on film. How to Hunt North American Big Game takes you into the homelands of grizzly bears, Alaskan moose, mountain lions, Dall sheep, mule deer, white-tailed deer, elk, and many other big game animals. In How to Hunt Wild Turkeys, author and wildlife biologist J. Wayne Fears will introduce you to secrets to guarantee your hunting success. He'll show you the best turkey calls and how and when to use them, how to hunt in different kinds of turkey habitat, shotgun choice, and other necessary equipment you'll need. In Secrets for Catching Walleye, Babe Winkleman takes you even further into his secret world for consistently catching walleyes, covering new ways to rig live baits, work spinners, crankbaits, and soft plastic lures. In Introduction to Muzzleloading, Dick Gassaway takes you through the basics of black powder, including the fundamentals of loading and shooting black powder guns and the necessary equipment and accessories to get you started in this exciting sport. It's true, 10% of the bass fishermen catch 90% of the bass. In How to Catch Bass, professional bass fisherman Roger Moore takes you through an extensive crash course in fishing for lunker bass. Learn the secrets of John Wooters, a leading authority on white-tailed deer. He'll show you how to locate productive areas, stalking techniques, how to read buck rubs, horn rattling, bullet placement, and more in How to Hunt the White-tailed Deer. Archery Tactics for Deer presents the experience of America's most widely published bow hunting author, Chuck Adams, as he takes you through the fundamentals of equipment selection, proper clothing, when to hunt, where to hunt, tree stands and ground blinds, ambush strategy, stalking and still hunting, and many other tips for hunting success. Professional trout fisherman Rex Gerlach shows you all the secrets of successful trout fishing in How to Catch Trout, whether pursuing rainbows in the Rocky Mountain stream or working a brook trout in some secluded northeast stream. Rex Gerlach's secrets will help you become a better fisherman. Bass Tactics That Work takes you fishing with bass champion Larry Nixon. Larry gives you his secrets for success on every aspect of the sport, including lure and bait selection, casting techniques, and tips on where and how to catch bass. How to use soft plastic lures. 4 famed anglers share fishing tips and preferences demonstrating how to use a wide variety of soft plastic lures. These pros share pointers on proper lure selection for walleye, bass, trout, striper, and panfish as they fish the Poudre River and the lakes of the Colorado Rockies. New titles will be continuously added to the Sportsman's Workshop Video Library series. Please ask your dealer about what topics are available.